Howdy, I'm Jason. This here is my trusty helper, Pinto. Come on, girl. Get your soccer ball. Go get it. And this is the Jeep Wrangler that we're gonna finish up the install of the MetalCloak Overline fender system on this thing by slapping the body plate on here and the tube fender on. We got the fronts on and they look awesome. I can't wait to see what this looks like. So come on in, let's get this installed. Okay, so now's a good time to get acquainted with the nut certs, these riv nuts here. Now you're gonna be using a lot of these on this install, and the kit comes with this cool little jig here, which is just a bolt, a nut, a larger nut, and a lock washer. We're gonna use this thing, and I'll bet it's gonna work just fine. Now, to start off, you're gonna install these in these two holes for the 4-door. It's different than the 2-door, but for the 4-door, it's these two holes here, and then there are 2 holes on the back. Of course, if you're starting with stock fenders, take them off. Then drill the first few holes and get ready to insert some rivet nut goodness. This gadget looks too simple to work, but it does. Screw the riv nut onto the bolt and hold that in place with an 11/16 box end wrench. I then use a 9/16 ratchet to tighten the threaded insert until it seats. Be careful not to damage these things, as they would be a pain in the you-know-what to remove. Mount up this aluminum bracket at the front edge of the wheel well and remove the taillight. Remember, you only need to remove the 2 inside screws here. Then, tape up the side of your rig to prevent any unnecessary scratching of the paint during the install. All right, so now we hoist the base plate into position for the first time. And I'm going to catch this front bracket with a short screw and then work our way around back here. That's better. And you can also use a couple of these holes right here to help keep the position. Now on the rear, you just capture it with some vice clamps here. That gets you a good line up there. Now it's really important to take your time and mark all of the holes that need to be drilled. Because there's so many holes, it's really important to get everything kind of lined up and pressed into place so that way things don't drift when you start drilling holes. So let's do that. Everything's flush. And just go ahead and mark these up as best I can. Now the instructions have some really good tips on how to do this by using number 6 self-tapping screws during this part of the process to hold everything in place. And I would do that if I had some. But I'm just so excited to get these on that I'm just gonna go for it the old-fashioned way. And mark them. Okay, now we'll pull this thing off. We'll actually center punch and drill all of those perimeter holes, and then we'll come back through and transfer these holes into the inner fender well here. Here is another one of those times you really want to pay attention and do some good work marking these holes. When drilling into this thin sheet metal, start with an 1/8 inch bit and step your way to the larger size required for the riv nuts, or else you may tear a hole into the side of your Jeep. Remember, accurate holes now make for a much easier install later. Now, before you go crazy and start just drilling all of the holes out to the size of the riv nuts here, you want to actually pay attention. There are these holes along the back that need to be drilled to a smaller size because they get backed by lock nuts. So slow down, pay attention, drill these things out. Now that we got the holes, the first holes drilled, I'm going to pull the tape off around them before we do the nut inserts. And remember, use a paint pen or whatever technique you would like to paint any bare metal surfaces. You don't want any corrosion sneaking up on you down the years behind any of this stuff. So we'll just use this little black enamel paint pen. Now for those of you that are faint of heart and are afraid to drill holes in your Jeep, this might not be the install for you. But I know in the long run, it makes the Jeep stronger and more practical for the kind of things that I want to do with it. So I'm not really that afraid. I'm not really that worried about this. It's definitely an upgrade.
Now it's time to get your rivet nut installation game going strong. The instructions give a clear roadmap on what goes where, so follow them closely. I then remounted the base plate to accurately transfer the last 2 holes with a punch and hammer. Then just drilled, painted, and squeezed some threads into place.
Okay, now that we got all of the riv nut inserts installed, it's time to see how you lined everything up and how everything is gonna fit. And just remember, you can use one of your longer bolts here to kind of tweak these things if you need to. So far, everything is going in really quite well. So let's just keep going. Don't want to cross thread anything, but everything seems to be just going according to plan. Now for the bolts back here, it's simple. You use your 3/8 bolt, and then you just back it with the nylock, since you have this easy access to the rear with the taillight out. And we'll just keep moving along here. And now the kit comes with these spacers here that will help bridge the gap, like on the front, to the inner panel where there's much stronger metal there. So you just put that in like that, and the spacers are set for each section of the wheel well. So they're all the different depths that you'll need. So we'll just get these all installed. Nothing's tight yet. Everything's lining up nicely. I'll take that. Final spacer. We'll just keep working our way around here, tightening. So we are tight up till here. Let's get these back bolts. Since I'm pretty happy with the fit, I'm gonna just go ahead and tighten these. Whew. That wasn't so bad. Now let's get the flare on. Woo! But first you have to put a little anti-seize here inside this front and rear mounting point, because you use stainless hardware there, and like on the front, we have a stainless bolt going into a mild steel threaded insert here. And let's just mount this fender. What do you think? Good. Good. This is going pretty easy. I can just make sure this is in good shape. And there are these 2 bolts that go inside the fender well here. I'm going to put a little anti-seize on them as well. Tighten that up there. I will follow that up with this, just to make sure that's tight. Let's make sure this is tight. Quick touch up on this one. That's tight. And that's tight. Wow. Holy mackerel. That is why you have this armor on the side of this thing. Look at that. Awesome. All right, I'm gonna throw that taillight back in. We'll back this into the yard and take a few shots and show you what we got here. Oh, I forgot one last thing. We took these rocker guards off to do the install. And so now we're gonna put these things back on. And I wanna show you a little tip that I did when I took these off. Initially, when I went to put these tires on, this thing actually touched right here and actually prevented these tires from even fitting on this thing. Now, as you can see here, what I did was cut this thing, and even since I cut that, I've actually went ahead and dollied this seam even farther to get a little bit more clearance, since it did rub quite a bit on my first trip out. Now, here's a little tip that I learned from Ron over at Blackstone Jeep Shop, which is my Jeep shop, and he said you could save these things because they're actually pretty beefy and they do offer some protection from rocks and stuff here. So all you do is you just cut the distance that you want, and it was 1 3/4 that I cut off of that thing, and I even retained the stock cap here so it looks fairly like stock, and it gives me this max clearance and max protection. So there you go, that's a little tip there. We're gonna get this thing installed, then get it out in the yard.
Check it out. The MetalCloak Overline Fender kit is tough and extremely handsome looking on the Jeep. It feels really good to know that these fenders not only allow the clearance I needed to run 37-inch tires at the stock ride height for now, but they actually add strength in areas that had just plastic bits before.
And that is it for the MetalCloak Overline Fender kit for the entire Jeep here. Now next up, actually why don't you help me figure out what's next? I'm thinking bumper, rear bumper, or tire carrier. Definitely got to do some four-wheeling. I got some bump stops for the things. I'll probably throw those on before I go. So tune in next time and we'll see what we can do. Till then, enjoy your drive.